Hey guys, it's Ridgewood, New York. This is the Kitchen Bike Mechanic in his kitchen again, this time at the table. And today I'm going to be talking about stems. I hope I don't get pigeonholed on YouTube as the stem guy, because I've already made a video about, how to swap out your stem on your road bike. But at the moment, I'm in the middle of a couple builds, and generally I kind of just have a bunch of stems laying around the house, so I figured I'd, assemble them and talk about them. Do some comparisons, maybe weigh a couple of them. All right, baby. So simply defined, a stem is just the part of your bike that connects your steer tube and your frame to your handlebars. Most modern stems kind of have this simple construction, a couple bolts and a faceplate on the front to hold the handlebars in, and a couple pinch bolts in the rear to attach to the steer tube. I wish I had a quill stem laying around, because all road bikes before a headset was devised used quill stems, and those were kind of one-piece components that actually plug down into your frame, and you would kind of tighten a bolt up top to wedge it in there. And they didn't really have removable face plates for the most part, so you kind of just had to slide your bars in, and if you ever needed to swap out your stem for whatever reason, you would have to disassemble all of your bars. There weren't a lot of sizing options for the quill stems, and a headset came along and kind of changed the game on that. Now, I'm no bike component historian, but I think the headsets first came along in the mid or early 90s. They kind of were made famous by like Team Telecom and Lance Armstrong in that, mid 90s kind of EPO fueled era. And I guess it's pretty revolutionary to just be able to, pop your stem off and on without disassembling everything, and they're probably a lot lighter and, easier on the frame. Naturally, headsets had to evolve along with that. So yeah, that's enough about the kind of, history and purpose of headsets. Really, I wanted to make this video to kind of compare a few of the higher end headsets I have laying around. This is not one of them. I pulled this off of my Roubaix Pro. Pretty sure this originally came with the bike. I mentioned in the Roubaix Pro video that the, handlebar clamp was of a non-standard size, which when I bought replacement handlebars meant that I had to replace this as well. Also, the steer tube needs this kind of shim inside of there to fit the 1 1/8 inch standard size of a steer tube, which it is, by the way. And I think there's kind of a clever design on this that I never really used, but most stems are flippable, to adjust the angle. But apparently with this shim, you can kind of further adjust the angle by undoing those pinch bolts and flipping the shim upside down inside the stem for further adjustability. And aside from most stems like this, most stem, aside from flipping it upside down, you don't really have much control over the angle and fit there. And most of the fitting involved with stems and reach comes from the length, which this most stem is 120 millimeter. This specialized stem is pretty heavy, by the way. I'm not sure how long this is. I think it's 80. And both of these stems are 100 millimeters. So yeah, these are the stems I have laying around. I'm not going to get too into top caps because I covered that in the Pinarello video. So these are kind of my nicer stems that I actually use in builds. You know, when I first wanted to build a carbon road bike and spec it out, you know, I was immediately drawn to these Zipp stems. Aside from the faceplate, which is some kind of alloy, this is a full carbon fiber stem. And it's super chunky, super beefy, which means it's going to be stiff as fuck. This is good for, you know, stiffening up the front end of your bike. You know, sprinters would really appreciate this. And honestly, man, this is the coolest looking thing I've ever seen, you know. I think Pro makes a similar model to this, and Easton also has a big beefy sprinting carbon stem. But this is just like the coolest thing I've ever seen. You know, that's pretty much why I bought this. It's a great stem. I had this on my original SL4 build. I just popped it off of my SWorks SL5, and I'm gonna pop it back on. You know, I just did a bike stripping kind of video, and I wanted to make this video, and that's why it's off. Otherwise, I wouldn't have yanked it off, because that's where it's gonna live. It's got kind of like this cool proprietary stem cap. You know, and that being said, you wouldn't want to run this like, you know, with spacers on top. It wouldn't really look good or work. I suppose it could work, you know, if you took one of these. Yeah, that could work, actually. But you want to use the cap that it came with. What else can be said about this stem? Oh yeah, it uses torque bolts, TRX bolts, whatever it's actually called. I've never heard anyone say it. I've got my pouch handily on the table with me. So, you know, basically that's like a different bolt head. You know, it's not an Allen key. And that uses it for the faceplate bolts and the pinch bolts on the side. There's also, there's a version of this. These come in multiple sizes, by the way. This is the 100mm size. There's also a version of this that's kind of like murdered out, meaning like, you know, all black, you know, logos on it. This stem was run by multiple, you know, World Tour riders. Most notably, Peter Sagan had this on his bikes, and he wasn't even sponsored by Zipp. You know, and a lot of teams do this, where they'll get non-sponsored gear, either, you know, for competitive edge, like Ineos does that a lot, especially with their wheels. But Peter Sagan loved this stem so much, he equipped it on his bike and put black electrical tape over it, just to avoid any issues with sponsors. So yeah, you know, that's coming off my SL5 SWorks. Alright, move this stuff aside for a second. This is the other really nice stem that I have. This is an SWorks stem, and unlike the Zipp stem, which is, you know, carbon fiber layup kind of construction, this stem is full alloy. You know, I'm guessing mostly of aluminum mixture. It's also 100mm, you know, the same standardized size, 1.1" steer tube. The handlebars, I don't remember what the standardized size is on these. This, like, you can just pick this up and it feels a lot lighter. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to make this video, is kind of to compare these two stems, because they're both rad and they're both going to go on my my nicer builds. But, you know, I was surprised to see how light this aluminum stem is. And a lot of aluminum stems are lighter than carbon stems. Some handlebars and some wheel sets are too. You know, just because it's made out of carbon doesn't mean it's going to be the lightest thing in the world. This stem would definitely be stiffer. I mean, it's pretty much like, you know, check all that out in there. That's like a solid chunk of carbon. You know, there's a little hollowness to it. But this SWorks stem, you know, I'm sure it's stiff enough. But that's kind of not the point with it. You know, it's meant to be lightweight. And it is. These come with titanium bolts, both on the pinch and the faceplate. And this uses a standard like Allen key setup. I think it's a 4mm. And you pull out the Pedros, kind of test that conjecture and hypothesis. Yep, like a 4mm setup. So, you know, I think everyone's here for one reason. I'm basically gonna weigh these. Yeah, you know, so I'm building up a SL4 SWorks, and I'm kind of intending it to be like a lightweight climbing bike. And I don't need to weigh these to know that this SWorks stem is a lot lighter. But, you know, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna weigh all these boys out and give you guys some juicy content, you know, because this is what I go on YouTube looking for. And just for the sake of, you know, accuracy, I'm gonna weigh them with the caps too. Although none of these caps, you know, this SWorks stem is kind of weird because it's a little narrower, you know, than I guess the average stem is, I guess, you know, because it's so lightweight, the walls are thinner. But, you know, I'm gonna weigh them with the caps they come with, you know, just for the sake of accuracy and trueness. All right, so first is this Zipp SL Sprint stem, 176, wrong cap. And with the cap, it's 188 grams. And for such a big, chunky stem, you know, it's still on the lighter side. You know, I showed before, it's not one solid chunk of carbon, it's kind of hollowed out. What was that again? 188, it said 188 before, now it says 189. This is my my Bed Bath & Beyond fine kitchen scale, by the way. All right, here we are. SWorks then, 188 was the Zipp. 138 for the SWorks then, which is, you know, I want to say substantially lighter in, you know, in the realm of like weight weenie, gram counting road bike universe, you know, that's substantially lighter. You know, that's a full like 50 grams lighter. And like, where else can you go to save 50 grams on your bike? You know, you can go a bunch of places, but, you know, if you're looking for a lightweight stem, you know, this SWorks definitely fits the bill. If you guys know of lighter stems, and I'm sure there are some out there, there are probably some super lightweight, tricked out carbon fiber, thin walled stems that'll, you know, snap on you in a second. No, I'm joking. And that is the thing, like, you know, I mentioned in the last video about carbon fiber bars, how superstitious some people are. That's the most stem, 153 grams, with a cap, 165. It's still lighter than a Zipp. A lot of people are superstitious with like these kind of finishing kit, you know, components in their construction. You know, people seem to think if something's made out of carbon, it's gonna snap on you if you hit a bump, or like in the event of a crash, it's gonna, you know, leave you mangled. I don't know, like, I've seen so many videos and absorbed so much information on, you know, how these components are made and the rigorous testing they go through, that if you install this stuff properly, and that's a big thing, you must install this stuff properly. Like these pinch bolts, you know, they have torque specs. You know, it's hard to see on this SWorks, but, you know, 5 Newton meters. You know, when you install this stuff, go by those manufacturer recommended torque specs. Like, don't screw around. And, you know, with carbon fiber, like carbon fiber on carbon fiber, you can even get away with going a little below those torque specs to absolutely ensure you don't damage anything. If you use a little bit of retaining compound or carbon fiber compound, like this Finish Line Fiber Grip, which is the stuff I use. So yeah, don't screw around with this stuff. Like, do it the way it's supposed to be done, because, you know, your stuff isn't going to crack by hitting a bump. It's going to crack because you over tighten some bolts. And, you know, that stuff happens. I mean, Matthew Vanderpool recently, you know, his Canyon bars, his aero bars, one piece, you know, snapped on him in the middle of a race. And he still dropped people. But, you know, there's a big, you know, aftermath about that. And the questions raised about carbon fiber bars. But really, you know, what probably happened was that his STI levers were, you know, probably tightened up a little too much, or, you know, in an awkward position. And, you know, Canyon, you know, is like altering that design, but, you know, that's probably what happens. All right, so what was this most stem again? Let's turn the scale back on. Bed Bath & Beyond finds non-park tool bike scale. 153. Specialized, no name, old ass stem. Oh, that's not too heavy actually. Wow, I'm surprised. 160, 169 with the top cap. 181. Wow, I'm shocked. I'm shocked. This Zipp stem is the heaviest of all of them. I would say that's a shame, but like, it's not designed to be a lightweight stem, you know. Look elsewhere for that stuff. Look at some, you know, if you're looking for a nice Zipp stem, you know, I think the Zipp SL, you know, this is the SL Sprint model. Look for the Zipp SL. You know, that's going to be your lightweight Zipp stem. You know, look for the SWorks stem. Look for the Pro stuff, you know, Pro carbon stems. Pro is Shimano's like component brand. They've got some lightweight stuff as well. FSA, you know. Yeah. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed my my video about stems and my rambling, and you know, this kind of comparison stuff really appealed to me when I was looking for like bike nerd YouTube videos. So I plan on doing a lot of this stuff. Look out for my seat post video that hopefully I'm gonna do tomorrow. Where I'll do literally the exact same thing, where I'll compare a Zipp product to a SWorks product. But yeah, thanks for viewing, guys. This is that beautiful lightweight SWorks stem. Peace out.